Well, hey everyone, here we go. Life in the Peloton, presented by our partner, MAP. I'm, of course, your host, Mitch Docker, and Jesus, this year is bloody flying. I can't believe it because the Equinox experience is just around the corner again. It happens twice a year when, for a brief moment, cyclists around the world experience equal light and dark. This time, with the help of MAP, every pedal stroke fuels a collective goal. Bigger than one single ride, it's a symbolic solar-powered pursuit around the Earth itself. What you got to do, you've got to join MAP's Strava Club, log your ride every kilometre, no matter how far, which is going to power the collective push around the planet. So if you wanted more information about the Equinox experience, kicking off on the 20th to 28th of September, then head over to map.cc and get yourself involved. Well, spring has sprung here in Australia. The Vuelta a España is coming to a close and the pro season is winding down. But look, it's not all over yet. There's still some great races to come. And while things are kicking off here with the gravel season, it's getting up and about. The Dirty Docker, my event, is just 5 weeks away. I'm bloody getting excited. I'm getting nervous. Everything's getting in order finally. But I've got this new idea, of course. I've got another idea. The Dirty Drifter. Ride to the Dirty Docker. I've created a route for anyone to follow. Strap your gear on your bike, set off from where you stand and make your way onto the route. Look, if you live in Melbourne, then you can go past kilometre zero. That'll be at the Map Lab, so you can pop in there, grab yourself a passport and then get out on your way. There are 5 checkpoints along the way, so don't worry if you can't get to the start. Tune into the route wherever you are and grab yourself a passport along the way. Stamp your card as you go through the checkpoints. This is about creating a journey, a story, memories with mates. Instead of driving, drift up. Leave a lighter footprint on the planet. That's sort of what I'm going about. The Dirty Docker is bigger than just one ride. It's a festival and it starts from when you leave at your house. Jump on the route and make a journey up. You roll into the Fiesta Village then, get your last stamp on your passport, and my friends from Restrap, what they've done is they've created a patch. So what you're going to be able to do is you grab that, you've completed the Dirty Drifter, slap that on your bikepacking bag, and best yet, whoever drifts the longest to the Dirty Docker, Restrap, they're going to be making them a custom frame bag for their bike, a triangle bag. How cool is this? I just rode the route yesterday to test it out with my mate Andy, aka Fixo, and it's a cracker. We both loved it. Well, let's get to the pod, and today we have a crowd favourite. Well, it's my favourite anyway, Mike Woods. We've got him back. He's in the pod, back on the pod, back in the studio. And it's a sad thing because when you're pro, you spend so much time with your teammates and your colleagues. Whether that's just like in hotel rooms, you're laying pretty much about 1 meter apart in these single beds. You're traveling to the races, talking on planes and buses and things like that. Or when you're out training, spending hours together. As soon as you stop racing, you move away and it's sort of over. I loved hanging out with Mike. We were the same age and we just clicked. We pushed each other when we were out training on the bike, but we had heaps of laughs when we were on grand tours together. He was the guy that got me through those grandies. He was one of the guys that I could really be myself around. I could open up. I could be really honest with him. I loved it, and I've missed it so much chatting with him. Look, a quick background on Mike. If you don't already know, although only turning professional late in his career, he's achieved so much. He's won stages at the Tour, multiple stages at the Vuelta a España, podium at Liège and at Worlds, but we can't forget when he reinvented the Canadian Champions jersey last year, that big, bold maple leaf. I love that kit. Mike, well done, mate. But he has decided to call it this year. And I wanted to get him back on one last time for you guys to get his perspective on it all. Now he knows he's going to be calling it a day in about a month's time. In this episode, Mike chats about the very first race when he turned pro with Cannondale Garmin back in 2016 and was at the Tour Down Under. And he actually finished 5th on GC. Can you believe that? In his first race. Tour Down Under this year is looking awesome as well. The routes have just been announced, so get across and check them out at tourdownunder.com.au. It's a cracking course. It's going to be huge this year over there. The course itself is going to bring some big names, I reckon. They're expected to see the all 15 and all 18 men's World Tour teams for the first time on the start line in Tour Down Under history. The men's race is starting with a prologue. This is brilliant. Starting more or less right outside the Hilton Hotel, right at the Tour Down Under village in the heart of Adelaide. They're going to be cutting through the CBD and then finishing at the iconic Victoria Park, where all the local criteriums are held throughout the year. It's like the hub of cycling for Adelaide when the TDU is not there. Then they've got the corkscrew twice up there for the men and the women. Heavy. Then they're going to be back out, of course, at Wollonga, a new twist on an old crowd favourite 3 times. Hey, why not? But it's not the big GC finale out there. The final stage of the men's race is going to be exciting for both us watching and any riders who are just a handful of seconds down on GC thinking this is their chance, because 8 laps around a hilly, tough Stirling circuit to cap things off at this year's Tour Down Under. It's just going to be exploding. TDU is undoubtedly getting bigger and bigger every year, not just the racing, but the whole city is just a festival that time of year. So much going on, pop-up stores from what it seems everyone from the bike industry, hundreds of bunches going out every day. It's the summer break, the end of it, and I know heaps of my mates who travel around from Australia all year to get back there and have a reunion, watch the racing, go riding, catch up for dinner or a beer in the evening. It's just a perfect combo. I love it. And lastly, guys, before we get to Mike, if you're thinking about heading abroad anytime soon, data roaming, don't do it. Don't be a fool. Just like me so many times before. Going into the settings on your phone, going through every app, turning the data roaming off and making sure you only leave a couple on to reduce the amount of data you use. 1 gigabyte. It goes absolutely nowhere these days. That's all I used to get with my Aussie phone network when I traveled overseas. Screw that. I want to flame on. I want workouts uploading on my Strava. I want Spotify cranking all the time, downloading pods, Google Maps on, all the gadgets, as you always do. Well, now you can with Saily. From the people who brought you NordVPN, Saily is an eSIM service app with over 190 countries that give you an affordable coverage wherever you're traveling. Forget those crazy roaming fees from your existing phone network. Or remember when you used to land and go searching around for some kind of local SIM in some foreign country? Those old days. Look, it's really simple. All you do is you download the Saily app on your phone or whatever device you're using, select a plan that suits your needs and your coverage, install the eSIM, and boom, you're off and away tapping into that sweet 5G network. You only need to install it once, and with Saily, just like NordVPN, you can change your virtual location, block random ads, and stay safer when you're online. They offer 24/7 support for whatever issue you might be experiencing, and even offer a full refund if your eSIM is randomly not compatible with your device. So check them out, really great. I used them when I was traveling to Japan earlier this year. It doesn't turn off when you close your phone. The speed was really good, and I could just pretty much do anything that I'd normally do when I was home in Australia on my phone. Use the code PELOSURF to get 15% off. That's PELOSURF. Head over to Saily, www.saily.com/PELOSURF, or follow the links in the show notes. Guys, here we go. Let's do it. 10 questions with my old sparring partner, Mike Woods. Mate, what a pleasure. What a pleasure to have you here. Great to have you back in the studio. Mike Woods, how are you?
All right, man. Glad to be back. Love always being on.
It's just a pleasure to be able to talk to you, and it just feels like yesterday, really, and that's a credit to you, mate. It's always good catching up with you. It's a good connection we have, isn't it?
Yeah. I will say I do miss training with you in Andorra. It's not the same without you, buddy.
Someone keeping you honest.
Exactly. Putting me to the sword.
Well, I do feel that things have continued to step up notches since I left. And, I like leaving it as a memory that they were some hard days, because I feel like They're probably way harder now, but it's good that it's just this distant memory, this idea that the days were harder back in the day.
You say that, but they were harder. I'm not kidding. Like the after you left, like you rode pre 100 grams of carbohydrate era.
Mm,
And now like all my reference points are different when I'm
that's
training.
true.
I don't hunger flat all the time. So like I get to Canio and I'm like, it's not that much further up Del Tartar. It's not that much further. Whereas before you were cross-eyed before you started climbing. And then you had to just break it down mentally and get through it.
That is true.
You're doing like 50 watts less.
That is true. That is true. We used to just put ourselves completely in the absolute rock bottom and then just like go, who can get home?
Yeah. That's how the game has changed, is that guys aren't even afraid anymore because the hunger flat doesn't really exist. Whereas we were always riding with that in the back of our heads. This hunger
Mm.
flat, this idea that like, if we went too far into that deep end, you weren't coming back.
Ah, yeah, it was fun playing that game though.
Well, I think like that's one thing I don't miss being hungry all the time. I don't miss that at all, but I do miss the mental side of
Mm.
that. I miss that in racing. Like now it's less about that, like that mental piece. It's still mental for sure. It's way harder in the sense that we're just putting out bigger power, but it's less of a mental game.
Less callousing the mind.
Yeah, yeah,
There was some serious callousing of the mind back then, wasn't there, out in the training?
yeah. I also felt like it democratized ability as well because it wasn't about having the best power in training. It was about being able to reproduce like the best watts when you're ruined.
Mm.
And now it's guys are racing the finals like they're fresh because they are almost fresh because of the way they're fueling.
Hmm. Is there anything you take from back then that you can apply now that young guys can't apply because they never got to experience what we were just talking about, as in training through that point where you had no fuel and, it became mental. It really was a mental game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives me a bit more clarity now because when you're in the peloton now, when you're fueled properly, you make better decisions, and that we were able to do what we did not with that mental clarity, with that fatigue,
Mm.
was so much harder. And so now, like when I'm in technical situations, the peloton's like a square peloton, and you're fighting for position. I find I'm better. Maybe that's also just because of experience now, but I do find I'm even more comfortable and make better decisions than a lot of guys. And maybe I think that could also just be age, but I think the uh the having to do it while absolutely messed up, absolutely super fatigued has helped.
Well, mate, I'm having a coffee here. I know it's probably not coffee time for you, but coffee and cycling, they go hand in hand. We know that very much. It's a really simple question for you is really, what is it? What about your coffee routine? Tell me about your coffee routine. I think that tells a lot about a rider, a lot about who you are, and the coffee routine. Tell me.
Mate, I'm 14 days off of caffeine right now. 14
Oh,
days off of coffee. Yeah, I've had a bad some GI issues, and I've had to go cold turkey. And the first week was miserable. But
whoa.
yeah, I'm over it now. I'm over the hump, and it was hard for me because, like you said, it's life as a cyclist. Grabbing the brew on the ride, but yeah, even in the mornings, I got my rocket machine and at home fired up.
Hmm.
I normally do about two, like yeah, two espressos in the morning, pulled long, and then with
Double.
kids,
Nice.
you know, with kids before the pickup at 4 o'clock, I normally do a shot as well, just to get the levels up, and then yeah, fire up again this morning, the next morning. So I'm about four espressos throughout the day. Long, yeah, I like them pulled long. So yeah, double espresso, and yeah, with the beans that we get, like it's pretty strong too. So it's been an adjustment these last 14 days.
I can imagine because it's not only just the caffeine into the system, it's a ritual. It's the process of making the coffee. It's something that I enjoy here in the machine, something you look forward to in the morning. It's a bit of an identity and a thing that you go to in the morning. And now without that, you're like, what am I going to do? Make a tea?
Yeah, that's totally true. It is an identity. I feel like I'm missing my identity right now.
Mm.
And it does make you realize how dependent you are on it and how much of your energy and your routine is based around it. And as a dad, you're just constantly like looking for a bit more energy,
Mm.
especially when you're training. Man, midday now, I'm tuckered.
It's a good one because like it's a nice segue to identity because identifying as a sportsman, like what do you like about that?
Well, especially now that I don't really think about it when I'm in Andorra, because I'm just a dime a dozen. There's so many
Mm.
guys kicking around, even retired riders now, non-cyclists. They're just a lot of sportsmen in general there. But I've been back home in Canada for the last month, and no one's a
Mm.
sportsman here. Like no one's a cyclist. It's a government town. Um, I'm a unicorn here. And then so when you roll around here, you're like, oh, this is pretty cool actually what I do. Like, you know, everyone else is doing what I do is recreation, like for fun. This is my job. Yeah, I'm proud of that. And it's something that has really struck me here, and also knowing that I'm going to be ending that career in the next week or so.
Do you feel pressure?
Yeah, for sure. I think actually I do feel pressure, especially I didn't realize it, but yeah, being here too, doing Montreal is likely my last race. I feel pressure because I want to validate who I am.
Mm.
Like just to say you're a sportsman doesn't mean anything if you're not doing anything and getting results. It's nice to get that validation, even though I'm not young. I still have an ego. It's nice to have a bit of validation. So yeah, I feel pressure.
What about rewinding back throughout your career and in different moments in races? Is that pressure always there? Is it a healthy pressure? Is it something you put on yourself or is it exterior?
I'm now realizing it's not a healthy pressure, but it was a functional and very good pressure for the time. I don't regret anything. I have no regrets in my career, and I think the pressure that I put on myself propelled me to the highest level of the sport and got me great results. And maybe I put too much pressure on myself in some instances, but I think it drove me to do the training that I needed to do to take the risks that I needed to take. I'm grateful for it, but now one of the reasons why I decided to retire was because of this pressure. I
Mm.
put a lot of pressure on myself, and that pressure is sustainable for a couple seasons. But when you get over a decade of racing, especially as a leader on the team, it starts to wreak havoc on your nervous system.
Mm.
And my health's reflecting in that. I'm having a lot of GI issues, sleep's harder, and then yeah, having kids too. You start realizing that you can't always be on as a GC man.
Mm.
You have to also be a dad, and that's kind of at odds with that pressure's at odds with being a good parent. So yeah, I don't think it's healthy, but I don't regret it.
Help everyone understand a little bit about positive and negative pressure. And it's something that I witnessed when I was racing and witnessed myself. And I understand what worked for me. Do you understand what I mean by positive and negative pressure? And that's coming from others, directing it towards you. Do you understand what works for you? And do both work for you at certain times or one or the other?
Yeah, I think positive pressure certainly works best with me. I'm a positive person. I thrive off of when people believe in me, and I thrive off when people are rooting for me. So yeah, I like having positive pressure because really if you can call it negative pressure, the doubts, even the big pressure, I often just comes from myself
Mm.
and my expectations. So I don't love it when you'll get a director screaming at you or getting down on you, or a team manager getting down on you. That's always challenging, and it's something that I don't like having. But at the same time, I have performed off of that too.
Mm.
So it's been somewhat functional, but I don't like it.
Tell me about a moment when you have performed off the negative and you've sort of done the old, well, fuck you, I'm going to show you, because it can be powerful that. But, personally, I noticed that it wasn't a driver for me, but there was a moment where it can be a real spark.
Second year on EF, Charlie Wagelius, Perry Nice. I hate that race. I hate it. I've only done it a couple times, but every time I get offered to do it now, I'm against it. I broke my femur at that race, but in the first time I did it, we had an awful race. Davide Formolo was our GC man. He dropped out because he crashed. Joe Dombrowski and Lawson Kravik also DNF'd. They pulled out. Our team bus broke down.
Wow.
And so we had no team bus. We had gone to the point where the only objective was just to get in the breakaway, and we kept on missing it. And finally, we were on the penultimate stage of Paris-Nice, and yeah, there were six of us left, five of us left, and we missed the break again. And I just remember Charlie getting on the radio and screaming on the radio, and he asked Pierre Roland to go back to talk, and Pierre just looked at me and goes, "I don't go back." I don't go back. So we finished the stage, and we had no shower. It was at the top of a mountain. And I actually did pretty good. I finished like, I'm gonna say 15th, maybe 14th, which wasn't a bad performance for me at the time, especially because I was trying so hard to get in the break early on. And we finished this mountaintop, no shower. We get in the van, and we're still sitting in our kits, and we all have texts on our phone, and it says, when you get back to the hotel, don't shower, don't shower, don't do anything, come to this room. And we got back to the hotel near Nice, and there was a conference room, and on one side of the room were 5 chairs, on the other side of the room were a bunch of chairs. All the staff went on one side, chef, team doctors, massage, and soigneurs, everybody. And then the five of us had to sit on the other side. And then Charlie came in and just berated us, like telling us like we're not moving our asses, we're not doing our jobs, pointing at the staff and saying they're doing their jobs, you're not doing your job. And I'll never forget it. I remember Tommy Altislechter was there, and he was a teammate of mine. He was just red in the face. He was so pissed off. Everyone was pissed. I was pissed. I was a 30-year-old man getting yelled at. Like
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? I was angry. And so the next day I was like, fuck you, I'm getting the break. And I did it. And the problem was with that is that I got on the break, and that was the victory in and of itself. I was so excited that I got on the break. I didn't even think about winning the stage. I couldn't. I did everything to get in that breakaway, and I got dropped on that knee stage. But I finished, and Charlie and Andreas Clear came up and gave me a big hug as if I'd won the friggin' bike race. They were so proud of me, so pumped. But that was definitely some negative energy, some negative pressure that propelled me into my first breakaway at Paris.
It's funny because, unfortunately, that berating then obviously had a positive spin on it for the likes of Charlie, because he realized, this actually works, which is not really what you want, because you're like, well, no, this is not what we need. We actually needed, more belief. But I don't know. What do you think about that in terms of, actually then doing exactly what he wanted?
Yeah, I mean, it validated it, but at the same time, I think in the end, it had actually handcuffed me, because the objective just became getting in the breakaway. Like I said, that's not the point of getting in the breakaway. The point of doing a bike race is winning a bike race. And so I was so focused on that, and so keen on executing on that goal that I didn't even look at what the real goal was.
Well, let's remind everyone about where you've come from, the start into cycling. Look, you're from Toronto, Canada, and you grew up dreaming of playing left wing for the Maple Leafs, mate. Do you still go for the Leafs? I thought you weren't supporting them.
No, I switched over to the Sens. Sens didn't exist when I was born, and then I moved to Ottawa, and for a long time I was a Leafs fan, but eventually switched sides.
Well, you went to the University of Michigan on athletic scholarship, and you were absolutely breaking records. You were flying, because you took the national 3,000 record for running, obviously. You broke 4-minute mile, and also a 14-minute 5K. I think everyone can probably relate to that the most now with parkrun around now, and just try and wrap your head around like 14 minutes for 5K. But you mentioned it before, you've got 2 kids. What were the things that you remember about when you were brought up, the way you were brought up?
I was so lucky to have great parents. They just put me in every sport. I had really bad attention issues, really bad focus issues. I was a terrible student. But my parents realized that I just needed to burn off energy. I wasn't a bad kid. And so they just put me in everything. And by virtue of doing a range of sports, I was able to find what I was best at, which eventually was running. But because I'd done a whole whack of other sports, the transition from running to cycling wasn't as big of a challenge as some runners face. because I'd done downhill skiing, I'd played hockey. I'd done sports that involve making decisions with body contact and cornering and things that were really valuable to cycling. So yeah, my childhood as an athlete, like I was a sportsman, like from day one. I knew I was going to be a sportsman. Like I wasn't the brightest in school, and I was so focused on being a pro hockey player because I just knew I wouldn't be successful in anything else. I still remember realizing that I wasn't going to achieve that dream and just thinking, well, what sport is it going to be?
It's probably like that for all Canadians, is it?
Totally, totally. I mean, we live and breathe hockey. You come here, there's nothing else on TV pretty much except for hockey. And um, especially my generation now, now football, soccer is growing and other sports are growing. But yeah, it's hockey, hockey, hockey.
Hey guys, a quick pause here to let you know this episode is being brought to you by Shocks. And I have been chatting about these guys all year, and if you haven't gone across and checked them out, you're really missing out because these are great. Shocks are the world's leading open-ear headphones pioneer. They are the most comfortable and safest headphones for cycling and exercising on the market right now. If it's the first time you're hearing about them, the way they work is that they sit outside of your ears, just in front, resting on your cheekbones. The sound vibrates through your cheekbones rather than like normal headphones where the sound goes directly into your ear canals. This allows your ears to remain open so you can hear the ambient sounds around you while the vibrations of the Shock headphones resting on your cheekbones absorbs the sound in a much safer way. Best of both worlds. Protects your eardrums and keeping you more in touch with your surroundings while you exercise. The Open Pro Run 2s are out now and they've gone away and they've listened to your feedback and made some crucial improvements, both the sound quality and the talkback microphone pickup, allowing you to be able to use Shock's headphones as a very high quality hands-free device as well. I use them every day. I'm out running, I'm out riding, or I'm just making calls in the van while I'm driving along, and I'm really, really satisfied with the quality of the Shock's headphones. Battery life is outstanding, over 12 hours of listening time, and it only takes just a couple of hours to charge them up. If you want the most comfortable and safest headphones for cycling, running, or whatever you get up to, just like me, then get on board because we have an exclusive Life in the Peloton listeners only discount over at shocks.com.au. That's shocks.com.au, and all you need to do is punch in the code LITP to get your discount. That's LITP. All right, let's get back to Woodsy. You tell a great story about the comparison of when you started to race, I think it was Tour de Beauce, and the first time you got exposed to racing at a really high level and in the national team, and you got a chance to race with the great man Swain Tuft and Christian Meyer. And I thought it was a great analogy you gave to what you didn't realize and the respect you didn't give them, even though Swain speaks about the respect you did give him. The comparison of like playing local club hockey and getting a couple of NHL players come down. Tell me about that little scenario.
Yeah, that was my first stage race ever. I'd never done a proper stage race before. Tour de Beauce, it's a popular pro racing in Canada, but it's a point two, so normally world tour teams don't do it, and normally you can't do it unless you have a national team taking part. And so Swain and Christian were looking to just do a last tune-up race before the national championships. They'd just done the Giro, and we're just kind of doing a race just to keep the legs turning over. And so they did the national team project, and like, since I was so ignorant to racing, so ignorant to like, I hardly knew what the Giro was at that time. I didn't think much of it, that I was on a team with two guys that just done the Giro, but that's what it was. I was like just an amateur playing with some of the best players in the league, And I certainly took it for granted at the time, but yeah, I took it for granted for sure. And then I only really realized how ridiculous that was once I got into the world tour, and how lucky I was to get insight, especially from Swain, but even from Christian. But Swain, like consummate professional, the great dude, just took me under his wing and right away saw my ability and started vouching for me.
What do you think it is about cycling that you're able to do that? Because you use like that NHL scenario, just say you were playing at a decent club level hockey, and not being my sport, I don't know it. Like I can use AFL example here. You're playing club footy and then a couple of AFL players come down and just start playing a game with you. Like that scenario would never happen, and as you said, you're not going to get a couple of, Wayne Gretzky's coming down and just sort of playing the local game with you for a week and then go back to the NHL. Like what is it about cycling that allows us to do that? It's a world-renowned sport, as we know, yet we see this quite often.
It's like it's the size of the peloton. It's the draft. The draft particularly democratizes the sport too, like levels the playing field a bit. And yeah, there's also a very unique set of circumstances in that one. Like I don't know, the barrier for entry in Canadian cycling is so low, and the disparity between the best and the worst is enormous. It's not like in Belgium where it just wouldn't happen. Like, you wouldn't get Evenepoel doing a 0.2 in Belgium. Just wouldn't happen. But because there's so few races in Canada, also the lack of technicality in the sport in Canada, bigger roads and all these kind of things, and then like I said, just the lack of depth in Canada. I was able to ride for a national team project with having never done a stage race before. You wouldn't find that like in most other countries, and it's all of those factors are also why I was able to make such a late start in my career, make it to the World Tour. It just wouldn't have been possible in these more entrenched, more powerful cycling nations. Even Australia has such a great program now. It's not like it was 30, 40 years ago. It's so good. I see it when I go down to TDU. It's like the depth's insane. Yeah, Canada, it's still not quite there.
I want to go back to what you were saying before about the way you were brought up with your parents and giving you every opportunity with all different kinds of sports. Like now with the kids, what are the things that you would like to sort of take on from the way you were brought up? And also, what are the things that you think about when you were brought up? And you know what? I want to change that. That's something I didn't like about the way I was brought up, and this is what I want to do with my kids.
I think you said it, especially you see that hunger for specialization right away now. Even Ellie and I, my wife, we're sitting down planning their activities for this year, like what we're going to sign them up for. And you start thinking, well, if we don't sign them up for this thing, then what happens? What happens next year? And they're not going to be ready for this thing. And then I'm lucky to have that perspective to realize that I got into sports so late. I felt fortunate just to have done a range of activities, and like the goal isn't for my kids to be pros. The goal is for them just to enjoy themselves and learn from sport and use it as a tool to make friends and be healthy and active. So having that perspective and really try and apply that to our decision making as to what they're going to do. Try and make them do as many things as we possibly can. But the only thing that I try and do differently is be a bit more selfish. I look at my parents, and my parents just lived in a car, driving us around. And I'm really lucky that I had that. I'm really grateful. But I also want to stay physically active, and I want to be able to do sports as well. And I see what my parents did, and their health certainly took a back seat to my hockey and my sister's sports and her hockey. And while we were playing hockey, they were standing in the rink. So yeah, we're just trying to be a bit more thoughtful as to how we choose what sports we choose, and are they economical from a physical perspective? Like, are they sports where they're just sitting around doing nothing, or are they active all day? And is this a sport that we can all do as a family? That's one thing I love about skiing. I'm loving skiing, especially with the kids. It's a thing that we can all do. We're all really happy at the end of the day, and it's something that you can do for life. So yeah, trying to look at a couple sports and with that in mind. Even cycling, I don't want my kids to be pro cyclists. I'd hate for them to be road cyclists. I'd be tickled pink if they got a mountain bike, but just riding around is so fun. Being from Ottawa, we have an amazing bike path network here, and my parents took us on a lot of bike rides, and I really want to keep that up because it's so fun just bombing around bike paths with the kids.
Do you think it's important on that note, as you said there, to be selfish? And something that I think about too is to be a role model, as a physical role model, and something that they can aspire to and challenge themselves to.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure. And my parents were active, and they were really good role models in that sense. But their physical abilities did slide, like I said, because of our sports. They were so busy just driving us around. They're professional taxi drivers, like part-time taxi drivers, as well as working jobs and taking care of the house. Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm still physically fit, and I'm also in a position where I don't have to work full time now once I'm done. So I'll be able to do a lot of my activities while they're at school. But certainly that's a gold mine. Is just to be a good role model. Lead by action.
Lead by action, exactly. It's a continual conundrum or conversation you have in my own head is what's too much when am I being too selfish? Yet on the same note, it's important sometimes to set goals and the work that it takes to achieve goals, the sacrifice it takes to go for something you want to do.
Yeah, yeah, totally. The temptation now is just to try and do everything. There's just so much coming at us from all angles, especially it's so easy to think that you're not doing enough all the time. One thing that's been really nice the last few weeks is we've just been hanging out by the water, letting the kids just play.
Mm.
That's also something that's super important that I think's not happening enough is just letting kids just play. Let them run around, get hurt, jump off rocks, swim, that kind of stuff.
Big kids, climb trees, eat dirt.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
After all this, Woodsy, do you consider yourself a professional cyclist now of all facets? Coming from a different way into the sport?
Yeah, and now it's occupied so much of my life. I've been a cyclist for far longer than I was a runner. I've been a cyclist for more. I've been a cyclist for more than anything else, which is crazy now. Like it felt like it's passed really fast, but I've been racing a bike since 2012, 2011. And so, yeah, we're coming up on almost 15 years of doing that. And yeah, so I guess I have to identify as a pro cyclist now.
I love that. I have to.
Begrudgingly. I, and that's a part of my next plan is I like pushing myself. I like challenging myself. And so next year, one of my big goals is to take on a bunch of different challenges. I want to try a bunch of different disciplines and maybe try and scrub off that pro cyclist moniker.
Wow, interesting. I wondered about that, and that's where that question came from. Is having that identity also brings it pigeonholes you in some respects, and you're more than that for me. You're more than a pro cyclist, and that's why I want to understand where your head was at. Yeah, you have been a pro cyclist, but that's not your identity.
Yeah, as are you, which is always fun. It's just why I like training with you so much. Just having good conversations because you could see outside of the bubble and you have perspective outside of the pro cycling world. And for me, that's one thing I've enjoyed far less. And in the last couple of years is I feel like I'm just been doing the same thing.
Mm.
And I like challenging myself and I like branching out and doing different things. I felt like what made me really realize, retirement was something I needed to do was I just wasn't I was getting complacent. I had a contract for next year. I had the ability to keep on racing and do the same races, but that would just be boring. I've already explored what I'm capable of in this sport, and it's fun to explore other realms.
I love that. I love that challenge back on yourself and not taking the easy road.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the purposes of life, no?
No, exactly right. Exactly. Mate, when you are racing and things aren't working, and you're going to know about this, physically, you got injured, psychologically, whatever it is, the form's not there. What does that feel like when you're actually not in that flow state and you need to be where you're not where you want to be?
Oh, it's frustrating. That's been the story of my past season, particularly. I wanted to really end on a good note and have a big win. I didn't want to just take it easy. I think from wanting it too bad, that's partially why I've had such a bad season. Physically, I've been good enough, but I just have had injuries and illness because of wanting to not be the guy that has a shitty last year. Yeah, so it's been frustrating. It's been frustrating because then I have had those injuries. I've had the illnesses this year that have handcuffed me. And I remember even doing Montreal, complete Montreal, which will be my last race likely. And I remember watching Antoine Duchesne do this race, who's a Canadian, and just being so far off the mark in that race. As his last race, I think he pulled out early and waved to the crowd, and thinking, man, how could you ever finish your career like that? I'm staring down the barrel of the gun right now. I'm looking to be that same guy, having had illness, having had just a bad few weeks. I'm struggling to even wrap my head around the idea of being competitive. It isn't competitive in this race, and it's frustrating. That's life. You can't be at the top of the game forever. And that's the reason why I decided, one of the main reasons why I decided to end my career this year too, is I don't want to go through another year of this. I don't want to be not at the pointy end of a race, because racing's so hard now. It's always been hard, and it's just not fun if you're not involved in it. Even not necessarily winning, but just not seeing the front, being a participant in it, changing its outcome. That's what I love doing. Don't necessarily have to win, but just being in the game, not being a participant, necessarily not being just a guy at the back. Yeah, so it's frustrating.
Do you not see, it's weird because do you not see comfort in that? I know it's probably hard for you to see that, but afterwards you will see comfort in it, whatever happens on that last day. I had the vision of how I wanted to retire. I crashed and I pulled out of Roubaix. I was finishing at my favourite race of my career, and I had dreams of rolling into that velodrome and experiencing that crowd the last time. Yet I had a different narrative that day, a different story, and actually that story fit exactly where I was. I was walking out of the peloton, and it seemed to fit right that I was defeated by Roubaix. If I had success at Roubaix, it wasn't time to end it. I've now realised in retrospect that the race, I had to be defeated by that race to put me in place where I was at. I was ready to retire, and that really confirmed everything. So when you speak about Duchesne, and even if you think about Sueno, he tells a similar story to Montreal. Being defeated and understanding, you know what, this really is time. I think coming out and winning, I don't want to put a stigma on you, but winning Montreal, potentially it starts planting a seed in your mind of, was I actually done?
Yeah. No, it's true. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to do this year. The last 3 years, Ellie and I have kind of looked at each other and decided, okay, let's make a decision about retirement at the end of the season, see how I'm feeling. And last year I ended on a great note. I won a stage at the Vuelta. Didn't win anything after that, but I was competitive. I was competitive at Montreal. I was like, up there even. I finished fourth at Amelia with Pidcock, and third amongst the humans because Pog was just way up the road doing his Pog thing. This year, certainly, unless a miracle happens, I won't be finishing on that note. And yeah, to be finishing in that fashion cements the decision. There's going to be no question marks for sure if I race like that. And yeah, I totally understand what you're saying.
And it certainly doesn't mean that you sort of sandbag it and you go out and you take it easy, because you also want to feel like, as I said before, the race defeated you, that, pro cycling has come to an end on its own terms, because that's where you were, that you gave all you gave, and it wasn't good enough anymore. And I think for me, that was the point. And it was hard to take in, and I didn't like it at the time, but it was only days after and, even now that I look back and go, you know what, that really was my time.
Look, I still want to put on a show though.
Totally.
And
totally.
Especially because it's Montreal. Montreal's only about less than 200 kilometers from my house here in Canada, in just north of Ottawa. And yeah, when it's that close to home by Canadian standards, that we're neighbors, and all my mates are going to be coming out, either driving or riding to the race. A lot of people ride from my town to watch the race. I want to put on a show for them. I want to thank them for the years of support, all the cheering. I don't want them to come out and just see a guy get his ass kicked. But yeah, you're right. If I do get my ass kicked, it's life. It's something that you learn from, and you have to accept that all great things come to an end.
I want to go to the other end of the spectrum now, and I was there when you won the stage in the Vuelta. Going up, I can't even remember what climb it was, that ridiculously steep climb. And I want to get inside that mindset, because it's something different. When you get into that state, when you're in that mindset, when you're going for that line, what is that internal dialogue going on for you? Is it something that's continuous, that you go back to the same place? Or is it something that just on the moment, whatever you're feeling in that time, that is able to give you that extra space? Can you take yourself into that mindset when you're going for those victories?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to do when you're really fit. Everything's easier when you're in great shape and you feel good. Where it's even more challenging is when you're not at your best. I do a lot of visualization, do a lot of research, and take a lot of notes when
Mm.
I'm preparing for a stage, especially in the last 5, 6 years. I look every day a race. I get the team presentation beforehand what the director is going to send to us. I look through VeloViewer and I write down not only tactical notes and notes on the terrain, but I also write down mantras and things I want to repeat
Mm.
in my head that ideally get me into that state where I'm capable of seizing victory, executing on a result. And they change over every once in a while, but the key things are ultimately the biggest key for me is keeping perspective, keeping kind of perspective and trying to remove myself from the moment where I'm in the race, trying to almost watch the race
Mm.
from the sideline or as if I'm watching it from the helicopter and uh, that when I'm able to do that, which is hard and which is easier to do when I'm at my fittest, I make great decisions, and that's when then I often win. I can just like visualize myself watching as if I'm, a commentator on TV, and then I'm stepping out of that pain and stepping out of that negative internal dialogue.
Mm.
That's where I'm at my best, and that's what I even did. In that first win, the Vuelta, I had such perspective going up that final climb, and the only time I really lost it was after I'd attacked Dylan Toons, and I looked up the road and saw that I still had 400 meters left, thinking that I only had like 50. What gave me the perspective again was just Juanma coming on the radio and telling me, "Do it for your
Yeah.
family, do it for your
Yeah.
family." And that again pulled me out of where I was, pulled me out of the pain, and just gave me that perspective.
Wow. I love that mantra, that written down mantra. Do you consider yourself physically talented?
Yeah, yeah, I do, but it's a mix. Like I think where my physical talent lies most is that I'm just a great adapter. I can be the worst cyclist quite fast, but I can also be the one of the best cyclists quite fast. And I have to train. I have to train super hard in order to be that guy. I can't just go from the couch and be one of the best riders in the world. I have to put in 30-hour weeks consecutively, and I think that's where the work ethic and the focus plays a big role. I have to hunker down. I have to focus my weight, and I have to really push myself. And all these really, all the hard work has to really line up for me to be great. So yeah, I'm really lucky in the sense that I am physically gifted, but it also takes work and it takes a lot of support too. I need a lot of people in my corner to put myself in the position to win.
Who's in your corner?
Oh, I've got loads. I'm super lucky. Ellie, obviously, Ellie's a biggest supporter, but then, just having good family, having the coach that I have, Paulo. Paulo has been my coach since 2013, and the guy's just always in my corner. Even Swan here, I got a guy
Mm.
named John Adams Disco. You've worked with him.
Yep.
He came over to IPT with me after EF, and uh, he's the best guy to have around because he's the best guy, especially when I fail. He's my favorite guy to see when I fail because he's just a good friend and he's there for you regardless. So having those kind of people around is just great. And yeah, I'm really lucky to have had them.
Who are you most intimidated by in the peloton?
Pog. How can you not be? How can you not go? He's just the goat, man.
Mm.
Even me, like he's so much younger than I am, but you're still just starstruck when you see him just because he's on such another level. What he does in bike races just blows me away. I'm surprised. I'm less surprised now. I'm surprised when he doesn't do something insane, which rarely happens. Yeah, I definitely hold him on a pedestal for sure.
Is it a physical intimidation or is it also a psychological intimidation? Is that like what I was wondering there, is there when you're on that same physical level, is there a psychological game or is it just because he's so dominant physically that it's also psychologically?
That's both, and he has that panache. Like it is. Like there are a couple riders that like grace the peloton every generation that have that kind of that vibe as they go through the
Mm.
peloton. You watch them and you kind of you give them more space when they're close to you.
Mm.
You follow them. You don't fight them for the wheel. Like Cancellara was the first guy I really noticed that with when I joined the world tour. But yeah, there's other guys that have they've just flowed through the peloton a bit. They have that like je ne sais quoi, like that presence. And they've almost beaten guys before the races even started. And he's got that.
So it is psychological, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, like now you see it in the racing. You see that there's just this moment where, aside from Vingegaard, everyone's really focusing on second. No one tries to be Icarus. No one tries to fly too close to the sun. They just kind of let him go, and then we race. And I noticed that big time in Emilia this last season. Like we just went up this super steep. Emilia's this course this great race that I love that's underrated, but one of the hardest races in the World Tour that no one really talks about. It's on a Saturday, the week before Lombardia, and it was like we just let him go. We just went, and then we're like, okay, guys, now we race amongst ourselves. It was amazing. It was almost like we were racing as if no one was up the road.
It's almost a mini salute for second.
Yeah. And that's what it feels like. It feels like like that in a lot of races. And the other thing is how much he alters race plans and race meetings. Like you talk about him, how he's going to influence every race, like how this team's going to ride, and it's been pretty incredible, his dominance.
Was there anyone before the arrival of Pog when you were racing toe to toe with Valverde in these times? And I feel like there was an element of a psychological part, where there wasn't massive physiological difference. It became a mental game. Was there intimidation?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Froome had that. Froome beat guys before he started. When he was at his peak in his GC days, he really had that feeling, that vibe. I remember we did the Vuelta with him in 2018, and he just had a stranglehold on the race from beginning to end. But yeah, there have been other guys too. You mentioned Valverde, Gilbert, Contador. There's been quite a few guys that kind of had that vibe for even Alaphilippe. Alaphilippe when he was prime Alaphilippe. Alaphilippe was a bit different because like it was more just like he was always so exciting to watch because you just weren't sure sometimes. It wasn't as dominant. But yeah, I'd say more like guys like Valverde and Froome had that vibe.
When you say that vibe, what is that vibe?
Oh, just beating guys before the race even started. Like it was like you have in the race meeting and you're almost like, okay, we're racing here for second.
Interesting. Mate, you've already alluded to it a few times, but just once maybe I heard you say it, but if you choose, do you ever work again? Are you in that kind of position?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really fortunate that I don't have to work a regular job again. I have worked regular jobs, and I've never cut out for a 9 to 5 style of working in an office. I'm too physical. If I had not become a cyclist, I probably would have become a carpenter or someone that works with their hands, someone that's outside a lot, or even a coach, being in the performance side of things, being in sport. I love sports. But now that I'm finishing up, I've got a lot of projects on the go, and I think that's kind of my plan, is to just have projects, have a lot of things that I want to do, and be dynamic, not be locked into one thing. Just try and explore a bunch of different things, then see where I end up. But yeah, I have a busy mind. I like doing things. I like being active. So I'll be working for sure. You're not going to be just seeing me post up on a beach.
Well, you've sort of started it, but have you comprehended life after cycling? What are the things you're going to miss? What are the things you're not going to miss? And where are you going to be? What are you going to be doing? You mentioned like some adventures, things like that. Are you going to be trying to tick off what are the bucket list things?
Yeah. So what am I going to miss? Massage. I think like it's underrated. I think you don't think about it that much as a rider, but you get 100 massages a year as a cyclist. That's a bit too much, but I really do enjoy like getting a massage, having that hour to just kind of decompress.
Yeah.
And it's something where it's like, it's going to be like full stop. It's not going to be an ease out of it. I'm going from like 100 massages a year to 0.
I haven't had one since I've retired.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know I'm not going to do regular, and it's a really nice part. It's a really nice part of your day. I'm going to miss just the simplicity, the singular focus. Those things I know I'm going to miss. I like having, like, there's not many things in the world that you do where you just have one target on the horizon and everything is working towards that. Even also the excuse of not doing things with the family, like just being able to like chill on the couch while like kids are running around. I have an excuse right now. Oh, babe, I've got a race coming up. You know?
Oh, yeah, that's gone.
Yeah. The dishes, like, like, oof. I'm gonna have to
So you can stop being a
a
lazy
big,
bastard. Yeah.
had a big session, like I'm not gonna have that excuse anymore. I'm gonna miss that. There are a lot of things I'm not gonna miss. The crashing. I'm not gonna miss the crashing at all.
Mm.
Played a big role in my decision to stop being under the pump all the time.
Mm.
Like I mentioned, I'm a responder, so I have to train hard. Um, and that overarching fatigue, I'm really not going to miss. I've made a commitment to Ellie that even though I'm taking on this, I want to do a really cool calendar next year where I take on a bunch of different races. My training is not going to be the number one priority over everything.
Mm.
And so goal is not to just always be fatigued. It's going to be, how can I get physically good under a certain amount of hours? And I'm not going to miss not prioritizing my family.
Mm.
As a cyclist. Like the priority is to be the best cyclist, and then like I was still prioritizing my family in that sense. I was prioritizing my family because I was prioritizing being the best cyclist, which provides for our family. But now it can be directly being a good dad.
Mm.
Kissing my kids when I pick them up from school. Not be like, don't, you got boogers all over you. Like not that. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to just not being sick all the time and being around them and being home more.
Have you actually? It sounds like you've got the idea of it, but I think it's harder to let go than you realize of the routine and feeling like you have achieved what you need to achieve. And I certainly did struggle the first year to take the power meter off and to not getting close to 2 hours when it was 1:58, not rolling that extra 2 minutes around the block. And I was thinking, no one cares. Yet I cared. It'd been trained into my system. And you mentioned it then, not prioritizing training. It will be an adjustment. I can guarantee it. And you're aware of it. And I think that's a big step already. Have you sort of contemplated that when you get to that point? Have you got anything that you're going to try and remember this moment? Hey, this is what I promised myself. I'm not going to get caught up in the game.
Yeah, I mean, hugely. I'm thinking about that right now because even like I said, I've been a bit sick the last week, and so I've been trying to not train as much, but I still have that voice in my head, like you mentioned, that's like, no, you got to get the extra 5 minutes, and you're not at 2 hours right now, and that thing's going to be hard to kill. It's what made me great, but
Totally.
it's also what's going to result in me having a dysfunctional relationship with my kids and my wife when I'm done, and I have to remind myself of that because I do love it. I love getting into that, like just grind and that routine. It's addictive.
Totally. Mike, I hope we can do a mission together in the coming future. And from us here at Life in the Peloton, it's been a pleasure to be part of your career, mate. And congratulations. I know everyone out there is a big fan. You've been frequent on here, the third time on Life in the Peloton, but I could not get you back on. Love having you on, mate.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. Hopefully we can do one of those big challenges together. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm a bit scared. You haven't said what the challenges are, so I'm not committing to anything just yet. Why don't we relive the old loop, the death loop?
I'd love nothing more, my man. Old school style though, 30 grams of carbohydrate per hour only.
And we need to relive the old program, whatever that program was that day. Go for it.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Mate, love it. Take it easy.
You too, man.